All right, we're here. I'm here. This is going to be a little different. I want to introduce everybody and welcome you guys back to people who are our regulars. We produce one podcast a year, but I'm trying something new. Welcome to the very first episode of the More Steelers podcast. We'll be talking about Steelers coaching changes today and everything going on Pittsburgh Steelers through the course of the year. We'll also be throwing in some draft content. The Senior Bowl just wrapped up their practice today, Thursday. The Shrine Bowl just happened Tuesday night. And the draft is coming up in April, which is in Pittsburgh. So, figured why not open up with a podcast? It's a perfect time. Try to start something new, trying to kind of stay regular with these. Trying to get the other boys back to record some more Sports Please podcasts. We'll get a couple content. We'll get some content out in the next, hopefully, couple days or so. But today I figured, why not dip my toes in something new? I had the itch to make a podcast and everything with the draft coming around. I just want to talk draft with everybody. So, with that being said, let's get started. But let's start with the elephant in the room, obviously. Um, Everybody here knows that Mike Tomlin has stepped down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, with that, Mike McCarthy was hired. And everything that he has changed since coming into Pittsburgh. A lot of the coaching staff was not brought back. He's brought in his own staff so far. There's only three head coaches not head coaches. There are only three coaches that were retained, and everybody else had an open coaching position. So the ones that departed, some notable names were offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, now at Ohio State, wide receivers coach Zach. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. I'm going to butcher it. Running back head coach Eddie Faulkner. Offensive line coach Pat Meyer is now in Buffalo as the Buffalo Bills offensive line coach. We'll get more into that in a second. And everybody else aside, Coach Anthony Midget, he's Virginia Tech's assistant coach, and Danny Smith, special teams coordinator, is now in Tampa Bay. Everybody else does not have a position in college or professional level of football. So let's get started on the openings that we have. Let's get started on the positions that have been filled. Quarterback coach is Tom Arth. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's one of the three coaches. One of the three coaches we brought back him. Gerald Alexander. It's Scott McCrulley, linebackers coach and secondary head coach, respectively. Then we brought in a running backs coach, I believe, Raymond Chinyung from Dallas. I believe that's where he's coming from. I could be wrong. Yeah, former Cowboys offensive line coach. Sorry. He was not the running back coach. He was offensive line coach. Ramon Chinyung, coming from Dallas to Pittsburgh. He coached under Mike McCarthy. He coached under Mike McCarthy when he was in Dallas. So that's not surprising there. One trend you'll catch on here is that Mike McCarthy is bringing back a lot of people he worked under, whether it was in Dallas or it was in Green Bay, which is a good thing. It's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is it can't be worse than what we've had. Terrell Austin was a horrible defensive coordinator with all the talent he had on that roster. Did they turn it up towards the end of the season, not counting that playoff game? Sure, we can call that, but he just has been notoriously bad through his tenure in Pittsburgh. Arthur Smith was, mediocre at best. And then don't even get me started about the coaches before that. So we'll go ahead and do a dive into some of the coaches he brought in that I mentioned earlier. Steelers are hiring Adam Henry as their new receivers coach. Henry is a longtime receivers coach who spent the last 3 seasons in Buffalo. Another coach that was under Mike McCarthy in 2020 at Dallas. Like I said, you'll notice a trend here. Steelers to hire James Campen as the new offensive line coach. Another coach that worked under Mike McCarthy in Green Bay from 2007 to 2018. Obviously, Mike McCarthy was the head coach in Green Bay for a long, long time. I'm not surprised that all these Green Bay coaches are coming back to work under him. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings back Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes after a bunch of Green Bay talent in free agency. Seems like they're really trying to create what made Green Bay successful under Mike McCarthy when he was there. Like I said, ex-offensive line coach, 50 career starts with a new Pittsburgh head coach, Mike McCarthy's offensive line. So, adding to that, Steelers are close to hiring Patrick Graham as a new defensive coordinator. It's not set in stone yet, from what I believe. I believe they're meeting tomorrow about accepting the job. Tomorrow being Friday. This probably will be out Friday, so it'll be today. But Patrick Graham, again, I posted something like this on Twitter, which, by the way, you guys can follow down there. I posted something about this, comparing some of the stats between Terrell Austin and Patrick Graham's defenses. Patrick Graham did okay this year with Vegas's defense, but you got to put in perspective, he did an okay job with the lackluster talent he had. He was very middle of the pack when it came to a lot of things, and Pittsburgh's defense was also kind of in the middle of the pack, but a lot lower. And look at the talent they had. There's no reason that Pittsburgh, the number one paid defense in the league, should have been that far down in any of the statistics. So Patrick Graham immediately taking a mediocre Raiders defense and then coming over to Pittsburgh with that same mentality of, hey, I'm going to do what I can with my guys, immediately is an upgrade with Terrell Austin. He's got a lot more talent on this defensive side of the ball in Pittsburgh than he did in Vegas. And I really think he can shine quite a bit with this defensive front, the defensive secondary, everything in this defense that we have to offer him. Another coach that he is wanting to bring in. A Commander's assistant, Jason Simmons, is also expected to join the Steelers staff as in some sort of defensive role. Just not 100% sure what that is yet. It could be the assistant to the defense, but I'm not 100% sure what the role could be. There's some open candidates for the offensive coordinator position. Cowboys tight ends coach London Wells and Saints quarterback coach Scott Tolzien. Both, I believe, are down in the Senior Bowl right now. London Wells could have been at the Shrine, but both obviously are coaching these college all-star games. And then an assistant offensive line coach, they're opening up new positions, which is phenomenal. It's amazing news for the Steelers roster because we had the lowest paid coaching staff last year, and it definitely showed. So opening candidates for the assistant offensive line coach candidates, Saints assistant offensive line coach Jahari Evans. So, and obviously you have the open tight ends coach. They've not interviewed anybody there. And defensive line coach, they obviously let the one they had go. I forget his name for the life of me. Carl Dunbar. That's right. He's also down in Mobile right now. Still wearing Steelers gear. So I know he's technically not on our defensive staff anymore, but he's still down there wearing the Steelers logo. Back to the offensive coordinator position. I would love for the Steelers to hire Scott Tolzien here as the offensive coordinator. I get it. He's not going to be calling the offensive plays, but he's a quarterback coach that turned Tyler Shuck into what he is today, a candidate for Rookie of the Year. I know some people love Tyler Shuck coming out of the draft. I wasn't too high on him, but taking Tyler Shuck and being able to do what the Saints accomplished this year it was amazing. I truly believe that Scott Tolzien and Mike McCarthy could turn Will Howard into a stud. All they got to do was take him under their wing and show him the ways of being a great quarterback in the league. And I know that's easier said than done. You bring in a veteran talent. Maybe you bring Rodgers back. The problem with bringing Rodgers back is that automatically names him the starter. I want to see what Will Howard's got. Might as well hand him the keys to the car and just let him drive. Best case scenario, he's the quarterback of the future, and you found a diamond in the rough in the 6th round. Worst case scenario, he's a 6th round quarterback. You took a chance on it. You finished 3-14. You have a top 5 to 10 pick. Or in Steelers case scenario, he gets you 10-7 in your 1st round bounce. With Mike Tomlin not here, hopefully Steelers case scenario is done. I'm tired of this mediocrity of 10-7, 10-7, 10-7, 10-7 every year. I'm tired. A playoff win is kind of the goal, but that's the bottom goal. Obviously, Super Bowl is the main goal, but at least a playoff win is a step in the right direction to get this team elevated from what it was. Um, Speaking of elevating this team from what it was, we'll jump back to Mike McCarthy being hired. And gonna be honest with you, I'll hand up. I was one of the ones that hated the hire. I wanted Chris Shula. I wanted Chris Shula to bring over Nate Schilhaas to be the offensive coordinator, to keep those two together and get young talent in. But seeing that those two guys are not going to get head coaching jobs, something about that means somebody in the league didn't like what they saw. All right. Sorry about that. I ended up getting a phone call. Very unprofessional of me to take a phone call in the middle of recording. I'm just kidding. I had to take a phone call real quick. Back to what I was saying about Mike McCarthy. Like I said, hands up. I wanted Chris Shula. They're not, like I said, they're not getting head coaching jobs around the league. And seeing Chris Shula's defense get blown up like it did against Seattle's offense, granted, Seattle's offense is Seattle in general. This team is just insane. We'll talk about the Super Bowl more in a More Sports Please podcast episode in the future. But seeing those two coaches not getting coaching jobs anywhere really has me, I guess, kind of grateful. You get somebody like Mike McCarthy, especially seeing somebody like, Todd Monken get a job in Cleveland. Mike McCarthy at least has that winning mindset. He has won in the games in the NFL as a head coach. He is a successful head coach. He's played with great quarterbacks. He's turned Aaron Rodgers into what he is today. So, like I said, it makes me grateful to get somebody like Mike McCarthy, even though he's at the age of 62. But I guess out the window it goes with a 15-year head coach, because Mike McCarthy's not coaching this Steelers team till he's 72. Let's get that clear. But yeah, I'll be the first person to tell you I did not like that head coaching hire to begin with in Mike McCarthy, but I have come around it. Seeing him in the press conference crying about Pittsburgh, that being his love, that being his home, that being his everything, he has the heart to be the Steelers head coach. And I'm excited to see what he's got. He's bringing in great staff that I mentioned about earlier, and I think it's only up from here. You get guys in free agency, reload, cut some guys, cut Jonnu Smith to begin with, and then go from there. Get you some money and then get you guys in the draft. Get great young talent in the draft. You have plenty of draft capital. Omar Khan can draft. We still kept Andy, from what I believe. Andy is still with Pittsburgh. Andy Weidel, I think his name is. And then you add Mike McCarthy, who's great with quarterbacks. This is going to be, I think, an amazing draft class with Pittsburgh. They have plenty of flexibility to trade up or down, whatever they want to do. They have several picks. I think according to Tankathon, they have the fourth best draft capital under, I can't remember the teams, but they're ranked fourth with draft capital. This draft really I have very high hopes for this draft class and the draft in Pittsburgh this year. Speaking of the draft, we'll go ahead and get into the Senior Bowl. I've got my list over here of the players on my other monitor about the East and West Shrine Bowl. We'll go ahead and dive into the game. I wasn't able to catch much of the practices. They're not live broadcasted on television, and obviously I was unable to make it down to the East and West Shrine Bowl. I don't really go to the East and West Shrine Bowl. I don't really go to the Senior Bowl. I have been trying to make it down to the Senior Bowl. Schedule just hasn't really aligned. I will be in Indy this year for the Kanban. I'm there every year, so I'll have another podcast about that with all my notes and all my updates of players who I like, players who I don't like, players who shine, players who didn't. And that'll come in the future, with that being almost just exactly a month away in Indy for the Combine. So, East and West Shrine Bowl. Let's get one thing out of the way. Mark Gronowski really made himself some money this year. I don't know if it's that much more than where he was going, but he really showed out in this Shrine Bowl. I've seen comparisons already to Josh Allen. I mean, do I see it? I see maybe a tenth of Josh Allen. He's definitely got, the mobile skills. He'll put his body on the line. He'll throw blocks for his players, which he did. He threw a major block for his running back to get in for a touchdown. But I think comparing him to Josh Allen is it sets unfair standards for the guy. I definitely think that he could be a prominent backup in the league. He definitely showed a lot of talent in the Shrine Bowl, but the practices are where you're really going to get everything that you know about a guy of the bowl game or the games, the All-Star games. You know, they're good. Some people shine in the game, some people don't, but a lot of them will shine more in practice than they do in the games. Um, some other guys that really stood out to me, like I said, Mark Gronowski. There was a wide receiver. I don't remember which team it was on. Let me look here. Sorry for the silence. I can't really. So I can't find the receiver, but I'll hop over to the East MVP for defense, Mason Rager. Wow, what a game wrecker! Am I right? He got a couple sacks. I believe he got a forced fumble. I could be wrong, but he really showed out this game too. He took that defense and really became the guy. He just absolutely destroyed plays in the backfield. He was getting back there, getting sacked, running through the offensive line. He was a star. And I mean, out of Wisconsin, an edge rusher. Tell me if you heard this story before. An edge rusher out of Wisconsin that dominates the line of scrimmage and can get back to the quarterback. I'm just saying, if we already didn't have four great edge rushers, he would have been a perfect fit. I just can't find this wide receiver. Oh well. Some other players, like I said, that really shined out that I really enjoyed were James Thornton out of Illinois on the defensive line from the West roster. Um, Jalen Husky out of Maryland. He didn't. I don't know if he didn't really have that good of a game, but I did enjoy seeing the footage of some of the practices that I saw. Trey Smack, the kicker, nailed some field goals. Let me tell you, a team is going to get a kicker they enjoy because he can hit those field goals. He proved that he can hit those field goals because some kickers will struggle. Some kickers will struggle in these all-star events hitting field goals because I don't know. I don't understand why. CJ Donaldson had some good runs here and there. I'm not really big on the Ohio State guy. Eli Heidenreich out of Navy. He had a decent game. Michael Wortham out of Montana. He had, I believe it was a bad drop in the first half, but really turned it around. I think he had an amazing game. Definitely still maybe played himself into the 6th or 7th round, maybe higher. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really done a whole lot of scouting on him, but he could have been a guy that went from undrafted to maybe playing himself into the draft, or I could just sound completely stupid and played him from a 6th round to a 4th round. I'm not sure, but he definitely made himself some money. We'll touch on Chris Hilton Jr., another guy at the Shrine Bowl. I wouldn't say he was a non-factor, but I didn't see a whole lot of highlights on him. But he did play in both All-Star games. Currently is at the Senior Bowl right now. Showed up. He was a late addition. Had a really good day 3, in my opinion. Had a nice grab in the back of the end zone. He's definitely turned out to be. I mean, he's playing in all these games, which is something you could do to help yourself tremendously. Get your name out there, play in all the All-Star games. I mean, if you're going to get invited, might as well take him up on it. And another quarterback I really enjoyed, he left, didn't play in the game, was Cade Klubnik. I've always been a big fan of Klubnik coming out of Clemson. He's always been, I wouldn't say my favorite quarterback of all, but he definitely is one quarterback I really enjoy watching. There's a lot of these quarterbacks in this draft class that are very low on a lot of people's boards that I truly do enjoy. Cade Klubnik is one of them. Luke Waltmyer is another one. We'll talk about him talk about him coming up. Garrett Nussmeier, another quarterback we'll touch on. Ty Simpson, I enjoy him. Obviously, the kid out of Indiana. Can't remember his name for me at the life of me. Hold on, I got it written down somewhere. Bear with me. Fernando Mendoza. I don't know why the name escaped me, but there's a lot of names on my head right now. And just seeing Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl names, these guys that aren't there really kind of escape me at the moment. Eric Gentry, the linebacker out of USC, left early, but definitely did have an amazing campaign down there in practice. This linebacking class, whether it's on ball or off ball, is truly something else. I mean, it is very, very depth. There's a lot of depth in this linebacker class. If there's any time to move on from Patrick Queen, it is now because of how deep this linebacker class is. So we'll kind of touch on, Malachi Lawrence, who had a great practice out of UCF. Also another one that departed early. Caleb Proctor out of Southern Eastern Louisiana. He also departed early, had a great practice. Daryl Jackson Jr., a guy who departed early, didn't play in the game from Florida State, is at the Senior Bowl, also showcasing his talents and having, again, amazing practices. Will he play in the game? More than likely. He departed early from the Shrine Bowl, I think, to play in the Senior Bowl, but it's another guy who's just showcasing all his talents everywhere. Let's see. Avery Smith out of Toledo. There's another Toledo corner, but not nearly as good as the other ones that have coming out. Quinyon Mitchell. But this Avery Smith out of Toledo also departed early, but had some great practices. And then Cole Wisniewski, I'm probably butchering that name, safety out of Texas Tech. I don't know what it is with these Texas Tech boys, but they're really showing out in both areas, in the Shrine Bowl and especially in the Senior Bowl. We'll talk about the Senior Bowl here in a second. And the last person I do want to talk about on the Shrine Bowl having an amazing game was Caden Wetjen. That was the wide receiver I was trying to talk about earlier. I just found his name. He had an amazing practice campaign, and he also had an amazing game. He's incredible on kickoff returns. He's got the jets that can get him loose. He's got he's just got the speed. He's got the jukes to juke out defenders. He's going to be amazing on kickoff returns to help any team in the league. So we'll go ahead and make the transition over to the Senior Bowl. Like I said, practices have just wrapped up. The game is Saturday. I'll tune in. I probably won't watch a whole lot. Like I said, the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl are more known for their practices. They just, you get more heart out of the dudes. Some of the games are great, but I don't know. I don't know why practices, you get more out of them in practice than in games. Some people that do amazing in practice don't play in the games, which, to their credit, the games, they're worried about getting hurt. They're worried about hitting too hard, not wanting to hit too hard because they don't want to get hurt. So that's why you go all out in practice. You don't hit a guy, but you show what you can do and how you get to the quarterback without hurting somebody, without hurting yourself or risking your draft stock. But we'll hop over to the Senior Bowl, the American and National League. Some names we'll touch on. On the American side, Luke Altmaier is really surprising me with how he has performed this year at the Senior Bowl in the practice. He's had some great throws, he's had some bad throws, but all in all, he's had a great practice campaign so far. Between him and Taylon Green really taking the head of this American team, I think both of them have made themselves some money. Walk on down to Cyrus Allen out of Cincinnati, Jacoby Lane out of USC, Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. All three receivers have, in their own right, have shown out this year at the Senior Bowl. Jacoby Lane probably being the lackluster of the three, hasn't really had the targets like the other two have had in practice and in scrimmages, but could be a guy that performs very great in the game. You have quiet practice come out and just play amazing in the game. Malachi Fields, though, on the other hand, had an amazing practice. He's getting all the targets. He had one where he went up and grabbed it and I believe did a somersault at the end on I believe it was one of either the 2-minute drills or just the down the field drill scrimmage. Lewis Bond out of Boston College, another one of the receivers I really like in this draft, has had an amazing campaign so far with the practice. Not sure if he plays, who knows. We'll touch on a tight end, Josh Chevas, butchered his name, I apologize, out of Alabama at tight end. Has really kind of separated himself amongst the tight end crew on both rosters. He has really shown out this year at the Shrine Bowl. I wouldn't say nearly close to like what the tight ends did last year. And, the kid out of Miami, Eric, I forget his last name, but he's definitely separated himself from the other tight ends in this draft class. Some of the O-line, I feel like the O-line class isn't bad at this Senior Bowl, but it doesn't have like a standout one like last year. God, his name is I forget. Gray Zabel. They don't have a Gray Zabel this year, but they got the kid out of Arizona, Max, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name, who's done an amazing job this year, blocking some very star talent on the defense. Guys, I mean, you got the Michigan boys out there that he's blocking. He's held his own against Derek Moore. I think they've both really gone back and forth on some of the drills. On the 1v1s, he definitely held his own. There's a clip of that going around. He's really I want to say, the only real offensive lineman that's really stuck out to me in this Senior Bowl on the American team. Jake Slaughter has been good. Logan Taylor has been good. J.C. Davis and Jeremiah Wright both had really good day ones. James Brockmeyer has been all right. But Max out of Arizona State, I think has definitely separated himself from everybody else on his team at O-line, except for maybe Markel Bell. Markel Bell has really held his own. I kind of forgot about him. I missed his name skipping the roster. I still feel like he's a 2, not a distant 2, but he's a 2, and then it's kind of a bunch of players behind both of them. We'll skip linebackers. We'll come back to that. This linebacker class, like I said, is amazing. So we'll go over to defensive tackles. Rayshon Benning, Caleb Banks. Tim Keenan out of Alabama. You got Grayson Holton out of Oklahoma. Gabe, I believe is Akis. Gabe Akis out of Illinois. Tyreek Sapp, LT Overton, Zion Young, Derek Moore. I'm getting into the edge rushers as well. Both of them, all those guys have played amazing, especially going back to Derek Moore and Rayshon Benning and Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks I know he's in the top 50, I believe, of prospects, but man, he is climbing up draft boards, in my opinion. This guy has really played all out for this American team in practice, and I'm interested to see if he plays in the game at all, because he's had a phenomenal 3 days of practice. Why risk the injury? So he might not even suit up for the game. Derek Moore, like I said, those Michigan boys just know how to get into the backfield. Derek Moore has really shown that this season, everything he's done in the past is not a fluke. That Michigan has really helped. Being at Michigan has really helped his I wouldn't say mentality, but really helped his ability to climb up draft boards coming from, I believe it was Maryland. I'm probably wrong. It's a red school. I believe. I forget. Let me fact check myself right now. Derek Moore. But more about Rayshon Benning. So with Rayshon Benning, he's really gotten into the backfield. Another dude, like I said, those Michigan boys really do know how to get into the backfield. Rayshon Benning, that was kind of like, he was very quiet. I want to say he was so he came out of, Michigan from 20. I'm thinking of another defensive end. Not Derek Moore. What is that defensive end? Edge, Michigan. Juwan? No. What is his name? I apologize for any listeners out there. I'm kind of on a tangent right now. What is his name? Jayshawn Barham. That's who I couldn't fucking remember. If I'm correct, he came out of, Maryland. So 22 and 23, he was in Maryland. Okay, that's who I was thinking of. My apologies. Jayshawn Barham, who is not in the draft this year, I don't believe. But like I said, Rayshon Benning is able to get in the backfield and disrupt some plays all practice long. Guys like LT Overton out of Alabama have been in the backfield quite a bit. The Arkansas boys that are on the defense have been in the backfield. Julian Neal has showed out. He had a really good practice yesterday. He's kind of been under the radar, in my opinion, throughout the entire practice. But same with Cameron Ball. Both Arkansas kids have been kind of under the radar, but Ball has been in the backfield quite a bit, especially during day 2. Guys like Zion Young, seeing that M on the helmet from Missouri made me question, oh, yeah, there we go, another rep where Derek Moore's in the backfield. And then you just hear him, Zion Young. So it's easy to get those helmets confused with the 2 M's if you're not paying attention to the front. So Zion Young, he's an amazing player. Had a great practice. Again, another guy, if he plays, hopefully he can earn himself some more money. A while back to the secondary, Davison Igbinosa from Ohio State has had some good practices. He had a good day 1 and day 2. Kind of wasn't really heard about on day 3, at least on TV production. You didn't really hear too much about him. It's good to see that it's not been a one-year thing. He had a great year this year for his senior year. His junior year, he was kind of burnt toast. So it's really good to see him turn his draft stock around and turn his play style around and kind of be that number one guy at Ohio State. Some other corners, Skylar Thompson out of Oregon State has kind of separated himself from the pack. He's a guy that's had an amazing 3 days of practice, really good at being in the pass breakups. I can't remember if he had a pick. I think it might have been the other side. The national team had an interception. Yes, it was. Sorry. And then the safeties, Michael Taffy out of Texas and Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina. Those are just some guys that have had an amazing practice this week. We'll hop back to the linebackers. Owen Heineke, Jack Kelly, Xavier Sori all have had amazing practices. At least, I mean, I don't know if you're going to make yourself a ton of money because of how deep this linebacking class is and how much of a position that you don't have to go with them first round and can wait till the later rounds to grab a linebacker. But man, had they had great practices. And that's not even scratching the surface on the linebackers that have had great practices. We'll hop over to the national team. The quarterbacks have kind of been lackluster. I think they're really going to struggle against this defense coming Saturday against the American team. Diego Pavia has kind of had the best out of all three. Maybe Cole Payton. You can make the argument for Cole Payton. They all kind of shined each throughout the days. There wasn't really a quarterback that had an amazing 2 days. Cole Payton shined that first day. Pavia shined the second day, and Sawyer Robinson shined the third day. So it's kind of hard to separate those three guys. They've kind of all at least had one day where they showed not amazing, but showed good skills. We'll hop to the running back, Seth McGowan out of Kentucky and Katron Allen out of Penn State. I'm a bigger fan of Katron Allen than I am of Nick Singleton. I think Katron Allen just has that more of an oomph as a running back. He had an amazing 3 days. Same with Seth McGowan out of Kentucky. Both running backs have shown that they can get the job done. Hopping over to wide receiver, Tyron Montgomery out of John Carroll Division III school. That kid, he didn't really have a great practice on day 3, dropped a couple balls, but he has made himself some money from the 2-day practices that he had on Tuesday and Wednesday. I mean, you throw a Division III guy out here, and he's cooking Division I guys. Guys like Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. I'm pretty sure that, Tyron Montgomery had a good grab against Colton Hood, who is a top 50 prospect that is almost guaranteed to go in the first round. So I'm a big fan of Tyron Montgomery, and I'm interested to see where he goes in April. But I will follow the rest of his career going into after the Senior Bowl game, after his pro day, and if he's at the draft, or not the draft, if he's at the combine. Other wide receivers that really showed out, Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech, his teammate Reggie Virgil out of Texas Tech, Colin Lacey out of Louisville, Josh Cameron out of Baylor. Josh, I don't know you're never going to watch this, but on the off case you see this, Josh, we got to change the number, man. 34 on a wide receiver. Maybe there's some personal value to it. Maybe it holds sentimental value, which by all means, if it holds sentimental value, keep the 34. But man, it's just seeing him out there in that 34, he looks out of place. But seeing him grab the footballs when they're thrown to him, you know that he's not out of place. This dude has showed up all practices. And he's an amazing wide receiver that he's gonna change some teams when he gets drafted. Late addition and Chris Hilton out of LSU. And that's about all it for the wide receivers. I think Josh Cameron and Tyron Montgomery are really the two that I've kept my eye on this national team, being as they have probably did the most. The Cincinnati kid has really made himself some money. I will follow him as well. This wide receiver class, I wouldn't necessarily say it's very deep. There's kind of a dip off, or there's kind of a drop off, but you can get some great guys in the later rounds. Guys that may not completely change the team, but definitely can add value to the roster. So, hopping over to tight ends. Like I said, man, these tight ends have kind of been lackluster. Nate Burkitcher out of Texas A&M. I'm not even going to try. Nate out of Texas A&M. DJ Rogers out of TCU. Matthew Hibner out of SMU. Just all the guys have shined. Justin Jolly had a great catch today. Tanner Colsey Kaziel, Tanner Kaziel out of Houston had a nice grab today. Like I said, this tight end class though it's not nearly as good as it was last year at the Senior Bowl, but there's some star talent in there. Hopping over the offensive line, Jalen Farmer is a guy I'm really impressed with. Uh, Bo Stevens had an amazing rep against I think it was Hunter. Let me see. Yeah, he had an amazing rep on one-on-ones against Lee Hunter. Um, it was I was very surprised to see the Iowa kid take on his own, but he basically shoved Lee Hunter to the ground. Lee Hunter just could I don't know if he couldn't get his footing under him, but basically face planted under Bo. Then you got guys on there. Kalen Rutledge, I think, is going to be a good offensive lineman. Uh, Samuel Heck had a good day one and day two. Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. He's a guy that I think more is a guard than a tackle. He's definitely struggled on the outside versus being on the inside. I think he's going to be more of a tackle, or I think he's going to be more of a guard when he gets to the league. But I mean, yeah, there's some good names here in the offensive line class. Um, at least on the national side, they've definitely showed out more than the American side. The American side has really struggled against that defense, and I think I'm very interested Saturday to see how the national offensive line takes on that American defensive line and defensive front seven. I think it's going to be a true show to see who's really got the better line. And if that O line can hold up against that defense, I think they definitely can make themselves some money and elevate their draft stock. We'll come back to the linebackers again because this linebacking class, if you thought American linebackers were great, wait till you hear the national ones, dude. Hopping over to the defensive tackles, like I said, we'll get back to linebackers. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech kind of reminds me of a lot of Deontay Walker that was out of Kentucky last year. Just that big, broad, is able to move bodies and get back into the backfield. I don't think he's going to be as good. He's definitely, I don't know if he's going to be even close to where Deontay Walker got drafted. I believe Deontay Walker went in the first round to Buffalo. Let me see. If he did, let me look. Selected by, in the fourth round. My apologies. I don't know why I thought he went in the first round. He went in the fourth round. Oh, so maybe, yeah. So Lee Hunter probably is going to get close to where he went. I don't know why I thought he got drafted in the first round. I don't know where that came from. Why I had that thought into my head. Probably because Buffalo's draft picks are really here and there when it comes to that first round. But yeah, went in the fourth round. So Lee Hunter probably does taste the fourth round, maybe the third round. But like I said, he's another big body guy that really can get in that backfield. Has really helped himself this year being at the Senior Bowl. Really elevated his draft stock. Guys like also Zane Duran out of Penn State. These Penn State guys are no joke. Devin Eastern out of Minnesota. Bryson Easton out of Tennessee. Like I mentioned earlier, Darrell Jackson Jr. out of Florida State really has shown after showing up day two, picking up where he left off at the Shrine Bowl, just getting back into the backfield, able to disrupt plays. He's a dude that has shown out. Onto the edges, Kane Sloan out of North Carolina State had a good day too. They're really trying to pull for him in day three. You could hear the coaches yell his name to get back there, get back there. Deny Dennis Sutton, Romello Height. It's the kind of guy. Romello Height is a guy that people are not as high on as I am. I love these Texas Tech dudes. I don't know what it is, but they're just showing out in the Senior Bowl. And we'll touch on probably the best Texas Tech dude on this team later when we get back to the linebackers. Like I said, Deny Dennis Sutton, TJ Parker out of Clemson has really he if he wasn't a first round pick, I think he is now. I believe he has played himself into the first round, if not the back end of the first round, absolutely into the first round. Colton Hood, a guy who didn't practice today because I don't personally think he needs to. He's also, in my opinion, another lock for that first round. Seeing all these Tennessee guys on here, almost being first round players, if not second, third, fourth round, really makes you question on why that Tennessee defense struggled this year. Moving on to the corners, like I said, we already touched on Colton Hood. Did a lot of the corners really kind of like left you wanting something more on this team? Chris Johnson had a good day too. I had my hopes up for him, but he's really struggled day 1 and day 3 against these wide receivers. He's got the speed, but he hasn't really shown the playmaking abilities. Maybe he does in the game. Maybe he shines in the game because they do run, they don't run full speed in practice sometimes. Sometimes they do, and Chris Johnson really has left me with wanting more. Moving on to the safeties, Bud Clark, VJ Payne. Bud Clark. Wow. Bud Clark might have won the practices, for lack of a better term. Bud Clark has played amazing in these practices. I mean, I was speechless. Bud Clark out of TCU. He's really earned himself some money this year. It could very well be safety too. Like, he could be the second safety off the board. That's not saying much. The safety class is kind of weak. But, man, Bud Clark has just been amazing. And hopping over to other amazing players is this linebacking core. Guys like Nadim Tucker. Nadim? Nadime? Tucker out of Western Michigan. Bryce Bocher out of Oregon. Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. Caleb Alarms or out of TCU. And Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. And it's between Jacob Rodriguez and Kyle Lewis on who is playing the best out of both of them, or out of the linebackers. If I were to take my pick, it's Kyle Lewis. And Kyle Lewis, coming out of Pittsburgh, get ready to learn Pittsburgh again, because you're not going anywhere. You're going to get drafted. Move on from Patrick Queen and draft you a guy like Kyle Lewis, because, man, he is going to turn the ball over. He is going to rip the football out. He is a turnover machine, just like Jacob Rodriguez. Both these guys can really turn the ball over, rip the ball out, jump into pass lanes. I mean, if there's ever a time you need a linebacker, it is now. Grab yourself a linebacker. Get rid of the old guys that are on that roster and get you a fresh young talent. This channel will forever be a Kyle Lewis and Bud Clark stan, unless they go to Baltimore, Cleveland, or Cincinnati. Then I can't root for them until they're gone. But yeah, that touches up the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. Shrine Bowl's already over with and everything, like I said. But the Senior Bowl game is Saturday. I will tune in. If you guys ever want to talk about any of the draft prospects coming up or the draft all-star game that's coming up Saturday, follow me on Twitter. Twitter handle is right down below. For those audio listeners, it is jherbert3898. That is my Twitter handle. My DMs are open if you ever want to discuss draft news, draft prospects, literally draft anything, literally Steelers anything. I'm always open for discussion. If you want to come on the podcast and have a discussion with me, let me know. We can get you on here. We can talk about some Steelers. We can talk about some draft news. I don't mean to sound sad or anything, but I don't have anybody to talk about draft stuff with. That's kind of why I created this podcast. Some of the buddies that I've talked about draft stuff with have kind of fallen out of it, Kirby, and really haven't studied players this year, Kirby, and really haven't been in the draft mood, Kirby. I know he won't watch this. I might send the clip to him anyways. But like I said, if you have any draft things you want to talk about, message me on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. But I think that's where we're going to leave it off here today. I know it's kind of an abrupt ending. Still kind of trying to get the feel of being by myself on these podcasts. I don't really have anybody to really bounce off of and kind of do a good segue. Maybe in the future, Kirby. But we will leave it off here, and I'll see you guys. Going to try to produce one of these every week, maybe every Thursday at least. Try to get in more sports or more Steelers Please podcast. Maybe a more Sports Please podcast out every week if the schedule aligns right. But who knows? We're going to have one every year on the draft. All our live draft reactions in April. It's me and the guys, me, Gavin Offenbacker. We have other guests on and watch it. You can always find us on Twitch, youtube.com/More Sports Please podcast. That is also the same for Twitch. Might try kick this year. Might try to stream it to Facebook and Twitter. Get our name out there. Come and watch us. Come and enjoy some content. But for now, there's More Steelers Please podcast. That's going to take some getting used to. More Steelers Please podcast, episode 1, and I'm signing out. See you guys later.